I can do it.
Please.
Excellent. A servant leader is a philosopher. A servant leader always seeks truth and dharma. As previously mentioned, dharma is a difficult word to define in English because the Sanskrit word has so many subtleties. Dharma refers to religion, ethics, integrity, truth, and ultimately to all things in the eternal realm. A servant leader is a philosopher because every leader with higher consciousness is to some degree engaged in philosophy and searching for true essence and meaning, and they are constantly trying to understand underlying truths. A servant leader should see truth and give himself fully to the pursuit of truth without being intimidated or deterred. Seeking truth means to seek out the inner relatedness of all things. Seeking truth requires the willingness to ask questions that take us beyond our usual busyness, political, religious, or ethical interest to see the greater picture. It means studying the full consequences of our actions. Typical questions of a truth-seeking servant leader. What is real? What is universal? Who will benefit by what I am proposing to do? Who will be harmed by what I am proposing to do? What is power? What is security? What is success? What is health? What is love? What will death mean to my ambitions? These questions are discussed in the first book in my Leadership for an Age of Higher Consciousness series, Administration from a Metaphysical Perspective. Upon discovering higher truths through research and self-examination, one should always know that there is more to explore and understand. One who is seeking higher truths should never feel satisfied with what he has discovered. The more we understand, the more we realize how little we know compared to the vast world of knowledge and experience. Thus, a servant leader remains open-minded and constantly aware of stewardship despite any apparent power he may have. When it is time to make decisions, a truth-seeking servant leader will do so. When it is time to commit, a truth-seeking leader will do so. When it is time to act, a truth-seeking servant leader will do so. But a true servant leader will never stop seeking higher truths.
Great, thank you. Did someone want to read the next session? A servant leader leads from inside out.
I can read.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, Tiffany, you go.
Next one, I want to cover you. Okay. A servant leader develops his character. Good character or integrity is power. In Sanskrit, we call this akara and prakara. Akara means behavior, and prakara literally means teachings or words. Both a leader's words and actions should be exemplary. This exemplary good character is called sadakara. As we have previously discussed, in the late 1980s and early 1990s, the American government began to study why Japanese businesses were so much more successful than American businesses, even though Americans had better schools and more facility. Stanford University spent millions of dollars to study this phenomenon. The researchers discovered that it had more to do with the Japanese mentality than American ingenuity. The Japanese have more of a family culture. Even in the business world, employers and managers work together better, communicate better, and tend to understand the inside workings of things better than Americans. Their success was based on their closer relationships. The Japanese tended not to see themselves as working for a company, but that they are part of the company. Thus, they are more willing to share collectively in a company's successes or failures. They were also more empowered individually in their work because their companies were built on teamship, relationships, and especially character. American business schools now teach that management success is about 20% technique and 80% relationship. Relationship, of course, means understanding people's needs and being able to lead more from the inside out from a platform of strong character. Leading from the inside in means that everything is based on productivity and the other externals of business. Many organizations, businesses, and corporations are literally being forced to work at healthier communication in order to survive. Without a culture of caring, there's no hope for world-class achievement. Japan's success is based on the Bushido and samurai culture, the culture of duty, sacrifice, humility, and hard work. Where character is strong, there will be a constant desire to become uplifted in all aspects of life. Strong character means a strong sense of morality in all areas of one life. As Gandhi said, a person cannot do right in one department of life while attempting to do wrong in another department. Life is one indivisible whole. In '98, when President Clinton was under scrutiny for his illicit relationship in the White House, The editor of the religion section of the Washington Post asked me to offer a message for Valentine's Day about integrity and principle-centered leadership. In my message to the American citizens, I stress that a leader's private and public lives should be consistent, and I explain some of the principles of servant leadership. Servant leaders understand that while knowledge gives power, character is power. Again, a servant leader leads from the inside out. Over the last 30 years, I've had several opportunities to meet with CEOs of many corporations, leaders of religious institutions, and presidents of countries, and have had the chance to address the importance of character and of leading from the inside out. Only by developing his own character can a servant leader be in higher consciousness and help raise the consciousness of his dependents. A leader possessing higher consciousness will manifest excellent character, greater competence, compassion, and courage as he or she is being divinely inspired. Kevin Cashman, in his wonderful book, Leadership from the Inside Out, writes, "Most business strategies need to be turned inside out to keep pace with our changing world. Our views of leadership need to be transformed to deal with today's dynamic realities. Much of today's leadership is tactical and specific, focusing on external manifestations such as vision, drive, creativity, or charisma. However, these outside factors cannot capture the essence of leadership. Leadership is something deeper, more fundamental. As much as we may try to separate leadership from the person, the two are totally inseparable."
Great, thank you. Anybody have any comments or reflections on these last two sections? Servant leader being a philosopher and leading from inside out. In principle number 4, one thing that just jumped out at me, and it's something that Ed, you've been mentioning a few times, is it's in the second paragraph as the top. The seeking truth means to seek out the interrelatedness of all things. And it was just going back to your point when we should see, a lot of times we don't know how to function or do the right thing because we actually don't know the relationship between things.
Yeah.
And seeking out that that interrelatedness is almost, it's very much like a secret, I feel, because we have to go a little bit deeper than just seeing kind of things at face value. And so to me, it spoke to the relationship between things that's come up in our previous session. So that was I really appreciated that point.
Thank you. I just want to add to that. That's been one of the things that have really, it's profoundly changed my life. To give an example to what you were speaking about, Rikin, for example, when we look at certain Eastern systems of health, for example, there's a very ancient system, I'm sure many of you will have heard of Ayurveda. And when you look at that system in contrast to certain systems which may deal more with the symptoms, not saying that they're bad, there's a place for all of these different things. But the more we get to the root cause of something, the easier it is to deal with it in an efficient way. It's the difference between taking 10 different things to deal with 10 different symptoms, as opposed to taking one thing that deals with the one underlying root cause of all of those issues. And I think that the more as a society we can get into the deep root of an issue, then the less stressful things are for people, because they don't have to do so many things. They can just focus on one or two key things that eliminate issues before the issue has even arisen. And again, to your point, Rikin, it has a lot to do with using or connecting with ancient wisdom so we can understand what's the relationship. And one of the exercises we're going to do today is really on that point, because when I was looking at this, that really stood out to me, the quote that you mentioned, Rikin, the inner relatedness. So we're going to do a few exercises later on, and I'm going to ask you to keep that context in mind, because if we look at how things are related, it may give us clues about what we need to do to be even more fulfilled. But we'll come back to that a bit later on. So thank you, Rikin, for sharing that.
And Ed, to follow on that too, because one point that stood out for me was when they talk about, the business schools talk about that, 20% is about technique and 80% is about relationships. But in healthcare, I find that thing about the root cause. And if we look at it, what do people want? It's that relationship. And that's so fundamental across every culture. People want to feel appreciated. They want to feel cared for. So whether it's in a business, if it's a household, if it's a family, if it's me as a doctor, knowing that I truly care for that patient, it's like the most important rule above all. You know, I'm taught the techniques of how to fix the blood pressure, how to fix this, but that underlying source is care and appreciation, no matter, it seems like, what field we're in. Fundamental principles.
Definitely, that's wonderful. And you know, B.T. Swami, he actually gave a seminar, and in that seminar, he quoted some research. And the researchers found that one of the key factors in determining how a patient heals, how quickly, how deeply, is the relationship between the patient and the doctors or nurses, medical staff who are actually dealing with the patient. So the relationship is a big part of it. And unfortunately, I know my wife was a doctor, and you know, in the UK, there's a huge crisis around the NHS, National Health Service. And they're finding people are leaving in droves, and they're struggling to retain staff, to get new staff to come in. And part of it is that they're being forced in some areas of the NHS to see patients, and they've got like a 7-minute window. So you've got to see one patient every 7 minutes. So they have to come in, you quickly try and diagnose them and get rid of them and move them on to get someone else. And because it's divorced with the relationship aspect, because they don't feel that this person has time for me, it's definitely going to have a negative impact overall. So I really love what you were saying.
And just to build on that, this point in the next section, something that was standing out was, it's in the 4th paragraph: without a culture of caring, there's no hope for world-class achievement. And to me, it was also speaking to this point that, you know, for those of us, we're all coming together on a weekly basis and we want to try to bring a positive impact. That relationship is actually the basis for impact in a positive means.
Yeah.
So I was just also reflecting on that point as well, which is just building on what everyone's saying.
I also want to say on that, I've noticed that Ricken is very, very good at building relationships with people. I have to say, he's a real master in this area. And I see that because he does have people's best interests at heart, they can feel it, and therefore they're much more willing to give him time, connect with him, and then all kinds of amazing things can happen. So I just want to appreciate the example.
I've learned from you over the years.
It's the other way around.
Did anyone else want to share anything else from this section of either of these 2 sections, things that stood out or reflections they wanted to share?
Yes,
Just
Ricken.
a little bit about the Acharya and Pracharya bit, because I think got lost. And it's so important. So the Acharya and Pracharya is, you know, that and leading from the inside out. It reminds me of 2 things. One, what Robin Sharma has taught us, that the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So, you know, it's like character is reflected in the mindfulness with which even the little things are done, which may have nothing to do with a job description. But the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So consistency. And the Acharya and Pracharya, just wanted to deconstruct that, and feel free to jump in for those who may not be aware. But Acharya is really someone who's exemplary. Your behavior is of such high conduct, your character is so high conduct that it could be role modeled. So Acharya means being a model, a role model for good character and good conduct. And Pracharya is your speech should be one that is educative and illuminating to the masses, to whoever your audience is. So I just wanted to make sure that that's something that doesn't get lost. It was a great reminder.
Yeah, thank you, Avantika. You know, in this regard of this word sadachar, it comes up a lot in, you know, spiritual circles. And, you know, we talk about like there's different S's of spirituality. They talk about seva, so service, our sadhana, which is our practice. Sangha is who we spend time with. And then the 4th component is sadachar. And I was just reflecting on this point that we can have the first 3, which is we can serve, we can practice, and we can have good sangha. But if we fall short of the behavior of the Sadachar, then the way things, everything else really collapses and falls apart, meaning how people view our behavior is, in fact, I think sometimes a forgotten piece in, in that kind of 4 principles. And so I was just thinking for myself, just how important that, that I should put more emphasis on the Sadachar, because usually there's more emphasis placed on the practice, who we spend time with, and the service, right? And so the Sadachar is such a powerful point that you're bringing up, that I'm glad that you did.
Rick, and if I may, what I found interesting, it's just in the same section, the study that Stanford University conducted in the 90s or 80s regarding American businesses vis-a-vis the Japanese, and they found that the Japanese culture, business were more successful because of their culture, which was more of a family-oriented culture of caring. And so if I can just quickly just read real quick, the Japanese have a more of a family culture. Even in the business world, employers and managers work together better, communicate better, and tend to understand inside workings of things better than Americans. Their success was based on their close relationships. Japanese tended not to see themselves as working for a company, but that they were part of the company. Thus, they were more willing to share collectively in a company's success or failures. They were also empowered individually in their work, et cetera, et cetera. So I found this pretty fascinating because, my company is going through a transition with new leadership, and it's in a disjointed. So it's a beautiful petri dish of an experiment that, what we're doing here in leadership and implementation of changes and identifying the problems and all these things. And we had our annual meetings a couple of weeks ago, and it was fascinating how, my big takeaway is, regardless of our lofty goals or what we set as quote unquote, what our vision statement's going to be, the hardest part is implementation, right? So, and even harder than that is the implementation of this culture that the Japanese have put in place. So even if the Stanford study, says that this is the major difference, in order to implement something so fundamentally different, is a monumental task that requires all a leader's energy and has to be 100% committed to it. And in a world where change happens quickly, even at the leadership level, this is the reason that it's hard to have long-term success for organizations, is because this kind of culture is hard to implement. I just wanted to bring that up because it's just a very challenging way to do it, even though it's the right way to do it.
Great point. Great point. Maybe I'm just thinking out loud, because it's we discuss this a lot with leaders, and first, there's so much to what you said, Mohit. It can be challenging to implement, but also sometimes people aren't even aware of the necessity to implement it. You have many organizations who think that we can just, a command and control model. We'll just tell people what to do, force them to act, and everything will be successful. But it usually doesn't work that way. But it's a great point. I'm not going to dive into it now, because I know that there's more you may want to read in terms. Ricky may want to lead us into reading, but I think that's something we should come back to and look at the how. Because one of the things that we've often challenged managers to do in relation to what you're saying is that process of the family culture begins at recruitment. What often happens is people just get anyone in and then think they can work a miracle. But actually, we often challenge managers. Do you know what kind of culture? And based upon the culture you want, do you take that into account when you're doing the hiring and recruiting? What many people do is they miss the first step. They bring anyone in and then they expect to work a miracle. But if we're more intentional, if we know what type of culture we want to create, we should also be looking for cultural fit at the hiring and recruitment stage as well. And cultural fit doesn't mean they have to be exactly like the culture we want, but they have to be open to that direction, So let's say someone comes in and they're very self-centered, and you want to create a culture of collaboration. that's a red flag. See? So yeah, just I was just thinking about what you said, which I think was really important.
Yeah, that's a great point. Ed, I was just thinking we probably won't read further than this today, so we can go into more of the discussion moving forward now. But this point that you're making, Mohit, about just doing the right thing is, we know we know what it is, and it's often, as you said, hard to implement.
Yeah, it's now, Ed, it's the how, right? That would be so beneficial for me, is even from the recruitment side, right? So what kind of questions are we really asking? What are we trying to uncover, and how, right? How to uncover with those questions that actually leads us to those answers. Because, people we all do, we put on such a lovely face. If I go on LinkedIn, oh my God, everybody's wonderful, right? And they're so talented. However, most times, unfortunately, you don't really get to find out what a character of a person, what the quality, the skill set, until they're in your organization, right? And then you're in the mode of, okay, now what? Right? How do we save this situation? So if we can get it at the front end, like you said, that's ideal. So spending time on the how at the recruitment level, I love it. It's just, that would be really beneficial. Thank you.
I think we talked about it in a previous session, Ed. You were mentioning, because we were talking about dependability being a tough thing to recruit. At the recruiting level, it's kind of hard to tell because it's so easy for people to have a great interview and say all the right things, but how can you really tell that this is indeed who they are? So we were talking about that, and I know you mentioned a couple things. Remember you're saying, interviewing a diverse panel, having recommendations help, getting a candidate to do a task or some sort of, group task that they, you can see how they engage with other people and things like that, which I thought were really, really, amazing. And it's kind of interesting because I'm going through this phase right now where I'm just interviewing just for the sake of interviewing. And so, the aspect of cultural fit is coming up, interviewing for senior level sales management positions. So the idea of cultural fit keeps coming up, as, a strong point that they're looking for, right? And so I'm always curious to see how they're going to evaluate that. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I haven't gone through these interviews yet. They're all set up, but I'm really curious.
Yeah, especially in an era where, EDI is like such a prominent principle now in all organizations. And I'll say that, we can do all these things, but I really feel most of the times we find out the mettle of a candidate we picked, when there's stress. And that's a really hard part to account for in any behavioral interview section prior, because they've thought out of a situation where they have been stressed, and you can ask that question, but how it plays out in real time is often the hard part that's hard to kind of pick up beforehand.
I can see Avantika has her hand up.
Please, Avantika.
Yeah. So I'm glad that the discussion is now moving into more of the hows and the best practices and the challenge of the real world. And a couple of heartening trends so my personal belief is that culture is the responsibility of the leader and cannot be left to individuals, frontline managers, and you cannot tackle that problem. And you can manage it at the individual level, but you can't create culture individually, one individual at a time. It is at the top, and then it is a job of setting a strong culture, making sure that there is alignment, and then the checks and balances, and the hiring is but some of the things that are really I think organizations, which in the past they used to call it organization development or organizational design, anybody who had a budget for that was an organization that cared about culture and about things. Now, some of them did it well, some of them didn't do a great job. But that was one kind of investment, which, because just getting that budget approved from the CFO, that culture is important, that was a step in the right direction. Of late, there has been people going the other direction. They're chief happiness officers that are being hired because it's that important, the well-being. There are chief wellness officers that are being hired. These are executive level positions, and their core focus is culture building, well-being building, alignment of values, and designing an organization where there is more fit and alignment. I'm sure it's not perfect yet, but I did want to kind of say that this has to have come from some level of maturity, some level of wisdom, some level of strategic vision, that this is really what will up the. And if you take a look at consistently the top profitable 100 on Forbes are usually always also on the best employers list. So that's just something that people used to kind of see this as a nice to have, but now people are understanding that unless they have that, that's actually the must have now. It's gone from something that's a luxury budget, but it's actually gone to that, okay, if you actually want better productivity, profitability, share value, all of these are correlated with your cultural alignment, with your employee well-being. And so I just want to put that out there, that there is so much science, there's so much best practice that is coming up there, and there's a lot more to be done, but it all aligns with everything we're reading about here.
Mm-hmm. It's like integrity is a must-have now than a nice-to-have.
And people are no longer just factors of production. People are your biggest asset. I think that's been recognized. The good companies have recognized it. Like creativity, inspiration, innovation is not something that you drip feed on demand by the hour. It's something that is inspired, and it is something that is nurtured. So that nurturing aspect of organizations is something that the visionary leaders in today's world are understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And just lastly, just one last point. I'm also really heartened by the departure from pedigree. There used to be this correlation, and there's nothing wrong with it, that if you've come from the top tier institutions of education, or from the good, nice to have names and letters behind your name, you must be a good fit. I'm seeing such a departure from that, and people's assessments are now so much more equitable in terms of opportunity. So just a simple thing that there are these cloud-based hiring initiatives where you could be anywhere. You could be in Kenya, you could be in Nairobi, you could be anywhere. If you have the skill, we will pay you, and we won't pay you the offshore rate. We will pay you the rate that we would pay the person that we would pay in the United States of America, right? So that's something that's appreciative of talent. It's inspiring people to rise to the creativity challenge that we have in the world right now, because there are problems that need solutions, and they aren't going to be solved by the people that learned the old way. It's going to be solved by the people that are learning the new way, actually, because these are new problems.
Cool. I'll just add, first of all, thank you, Avantika. A lot of very good points there. I'll just add that in terms of there's two things. One is, see, in the Bhagavad Gita, and we touched upon this in one or two previous sessions, but I'll just say again, one of the things that Krishna tells Arjuna in that conversation, he'll talk about different, they call them modes or categories. So I've seen as a lifestyle principle that with the mode of goodness, and by the way, hi Palak, thank you for joining, it's great to see you. Good to see you. Just as one principle, one of the lifestyle principles, and this relates to something that you said, Mohit, is paying the price up front. So, in the hiring and recruitment, it's easy to say, we'll just get anyone in. and then we'll try and work a miracle. But at the points that you made, Avantika made, it's about making the investment up front. What I found is, as a repeated pattern, is that the investment you make up front saves you literally multiple times the same cost or impact later on. So 1 hour spent trying to get the right person in the beginning can save you up to 10, 20 hours having to fix that wrong employee later on. And it very much fits what Krishna says. He says that the mode of goodness, it begins like poison. So there's an investment up front, there's some work in the beginning, but the return on that investment over the midterm and long term is much better. And to Avantika's point, I think it's very, very interesting because Avantika, you mentioned how the top 100 Forbes organizations are usually on the best employer list, which I thought was an incredible point. And you were also mentioning about the importance of how the people who looked at things in the old way are not necessarily the people who are going to solve the new problems. And I think that's also very crucial because, again, the idea is that if we want long-term success, it's actually a different strategy to someone who just wants a short-term effect, but which could go down in the longer term. So different strategies give different outputs or different impact, different results over different time periods. And I think what we've done as a global society so often, we've mixed these things up. We've seen someone do some short-term activity, and BT Swami speaks about that. We've seen people do short-term things and we've celebrated their success, but we don't notice that they go down eventually. And we've seen other people invest for the long term, and in the beginning, it doesn't look like they're getting anywhere. But if the investment is strategic, you start to see in the mid to long term that they outperform everyone else. And I think it's that awareness that what type of success over what time horizon, that's what we should be looking at, you know? And I really think that's interesting. One of the things, I'll be honest, that I do now, based upon the Bhagavad Gita, when I'm involved in projects, or when I'm speaking to people, especially leaders, and they tell me that this is going wrong, etc., I look at what did they do at the beginning. I try to figure out their strategy. Was their strategy in the mode of ignorance? Was their strategy in the mode of passion? Or was their strategy in the mode of goodness? And just by understanding what mode their strategy was in, I can figure out, oh, it was in the mode of passion. So in the beginning, it's going to look good. And in the long term, it's going to fall apart. Or it's in the mode of goodness. So in the beginning, they're not going to get so much outcome, but the mid to long term is going to be phenomenal. So I think that's a really important point that you all make, and I just want to reinforce that.
Thanks, Ed. If I could just add a little bit, because I can't resist, sorry. And if I need to cut this short, please tell me to shut up. I'm totally fine with it.
Please.
So the other thing that, you know, the next step is that once culture is established and once alignment with values have been done, it's also very important to then nurture the individuals, because, you know, while everyone, you know, has shared values and stuff like that, but everyone has individual personality types. So that nurturance must be at the individual level. And 3 tools practically, and I'm sure everyone has it, but some things which are really, you know, like just quick ones, really quick, short. I mean, I make sure that anybody on my team has these tools. The first one is they should kind of take a look at a good personality test, like a Myers-Briggs, even if it's pseudoscience, even what, but it gives you an orientation of whether the person is an introvert, an extrovert, a feeling person, a sensing person, a thinking person, a judging person. You know, you just kind of get to understand a little bit about what motivates them, what's their style, what's their communication style, what their needs are. The second thing is, are they, and this is actually a term coined by one of my favorite friends, so I'm going to borrow it right now. Is the person a North Star person or a map person? Does that, because there's some people you just tell them where to go and they will find the way to get there. You don't need to tell them anything else. They will literally get there. And there's some people that need a detailed map, you know, so you tell them where the North Star is, but you also have to give them the map, and only then. So there's a little bit more nurturing, a little bit more direction that's required. So yes, these are just, you know, some of the things that cultures established. You obviously want people that are more, you know, higher on their EQ, higher on the culture, and higher on the caring side. But then everyone also has these idiosyncrasies which have to be nurtured, because that's what makes the culture truly more synergistic and more rich.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, Avantika, you said there were 3 points, but I got 2. So take a personality test, and are they a
I
Starbucks?
cut myself short because I thought I was rambling. But yeah, the third thing is
All right.
the third thing is to kind of, we had that situational thing. Are they on where are they on the experience and the motivation axis? So there could be somebody who's very high. So the 4 C's in this book that we've very high in competence, but maybe struggling a little bit with attitude, maybe struggling a little bit with motivation. So, so that very quickly, every manager, if they're just able to plot their team on there, then the situational strategy for each person makes it that much more. So frontline management is one of the, so top management for the culture and frontline management for the individual nurturing. Your immediate boss is so important. So that's really what I think is the third thing.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of personality tests because I think if we have a good one that's sophisticated, it can tell us many things that we won't get in an interview setting, and it captures it can get a little bit more at the essence of someone. And so you get not only the good that you see in front of you, but also the potential challenges that may come in the pipeline.
Definitely.
Which is going to be there for everybody, by the way. So Ed, do we want to move on to the some of the exercises that we want to chat about?
Absolutely. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to try and focus in a particular way today. And what I'm going to do with this exercise that we're going to give you today, I was thinking about this. How do we start the year? Where can we add value? So the exercise we're going to do, we're going to touch upon the point that Ricky made about the interrelatedness. We're going to get you to do some visualization, and this visualization should be quite fruitful because it should, if we do this properly, it should help us to unfold a sense of where we are going in this particular year, and also to start to build some of the ideas around how we're going to get there. So I'll take you through this exercise step by step. Let me just share my screen now. Okay, so let's see. I think everyone can see my screen. Is that correct? Excellent.
We're good.
So obviously we're referencing the books by B.T. Swami. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is think about this. What I've listed on the screen are some areas of life, right? So spirituality, so higher consciousness raising, etc. Relationships, we read about that just now, the Bushido concept and how relationships are essential. Health, right? So we touch upon this idea of root cause analysis and different systems of health which can deal with the underlying causes. We've been speaking about career, work, business, and so on. I want you to also add to this list, okay? 2 things. What are 2 other areas of life that you know are main areas of concern? Or when I say concern, I don't mean that in a negative way, but I'd like you to put down another 2 areas that you know are important to you. That would be the right way of looking at it. So I've got 4 down. Is there anything else that you would add to that list? And whatever it is, you write that down for yourself, okay? This is an individualized activity. So I'm going to give you a moment. If you want to write down any other areas, and you don't have to be limited to what I put down already. If you don't think, let's say you don't think one of these areas is so important, that's fine. But just some suggestions: spirituality, relationships, health, work/career. Are there any other areas that are of specific significance to you? For example, for someone on the call, another key area may be creativity, okay? For someone else, another key area may be healing, right? Maybe there's certain things maybe one of us or some of us, we have a real enthusiasm to continually work on things in terms of character development, healing certain patterns from our childhood, whatever it is, right? There's no right, there's no wrong. I'm going to begin by asking you to add to that list based upon what's relevant and important to you. We'll give you a few moments to do that, then we're going to step on. And once you've done that, I'm going to ask you to give me a thumbs up. I'm going to stop the screen. When you've added to your list, whatever it is, you give me a thumbs up. When I know that everyone's done that, we're going to take it to the next step of the activity. Okay, I can see the thumbs up from Rasa. Okay, from Paul, from Rikin, Mohit. Okay, Palak, I can see Tiffany. No, okay, Christina, no pressure. Avantika, you let us know when you are ready, and then we're going to go to the next one. Because I want you to think about this. I'm thinking a lot about changing the pace with some of the things that we do. Because my natural intuition is that slow and deep could add more value to everything that we're discussing with you over these sessions, okay? So that's what we're going to try and do a little bit more of in this session today. Aside from the readings, that's Rikin leads on that. But with some of these exercises, I want us to really, my aspiration is to really add very deep value in these sessions to everything that we discuss around leadership. And I think you'll like this activity that we're going to do in that regards, because it can give you a lot of insight about the year ahead. Okay, so this is the direction we're going to go in. Mohit, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Can I share something at the end, maybe just a minute, 30 seconds? And it relates to what you just said, diving deeper, slower pace, but really absorbing. And if that's the pace for 2023, I'm really excited about that. And what I wanted to share was because we took, I think it was our first or second sessions we were doing, and we shared this with Rikin, is I had Rasa at our annual meetings carve out a few hours, and she actually did the presentation that we did together, and I wanted to share with the group some of the results that we had, and they were phenomenal with my team. So I just wanted to say it was implementable because we went so slowly and detail oriented, I guess is what my point was.
Wonderful. I'm thinking because Avantika's adding to her list, oh, you're done? Okay, I didn't want to force your pace. Okay, that's fine. So then we can come back to that because I'd love to hear. And actually, I'll make that more broad. Everything we're sharing with you, as you apply it, as you implement it, as you see impacts, we'd love to hear how you're using it, what's been the result, any impacts that you're getting from using it. That's really important. Bhakti Tirtha Swami, so the author of the Leadership 2 book that we're reading from, his huge emphasis was on application. That was his real emphasis. How do we take wisdom? How do we apply wisdom? And what's the impact when we do that? Okay, but we're going to go on. I'm going to get back to my screen because we're ready to go to the next level. So this is what we're going to do. And what I'm sharing here is the meditation I want you to have as you go into this activity. So Ricky mentioned this earlier, right? And this was a quote from the section that we read. We're looking at seeking the inner relatedness of things, okay? So the overall meditation I want you to have as we go through the next exercise. So you don't have to write this down, but this is a context, a mindset context. As we go into the next exercise, I want you to keep this question in mind, okay? Where do I need to go this year? Now, Rikin, when he mentioned this point about the inner relatedness, when we were reading from that section of the leadership book, the point was being made that if we are aware of the inner relatedness of things, it helps us to get a better sense of what we need to be doing, right? And they mentioned about the Japanese, that they had a deeper insight into what was going on. So the idea here is very simple. In the TED talk that I did, which I hope you had a chance to look at if you had some time, I said that life has a language and life has a logic. The idea here is that there are no accidents, and B.T. Swami often writes about that in his Leadership 1 and 2 books. So here, this is a spiritual idea that life is benevolent and there's a purpose behind our experiences. It's not accidental. There's a reason. For example, there's a reason why we are on this call together. Even if it seems like we're randomly coming together because we know Rikin or etc., there's a reason. There's a reason why we discuss these topics. There's something that we're meant to teach or learn or both from each and every one of us on this call and each and every person that we interact with. if we can be conscious enough to be aware of this, okay? So with this idea in mind, this idea that there are no accidents. So when we go through experiences that we've had last year, when we're going through experiences now, things that will happen to us in future, they're trying to help us to understand something. If we can learn from those experiences, those people in the right way. Now, with this in mind, we're going to go to the exercise we're going to ask you to do in today's session. Okay, so this is all about going back to the future. Okay, this is what we're going to be doing. And if anyone I like that film, by the way, I just want to say it was one of my favorites. So the exercise is as follows. We're going to take this in stages. I'm going to ask you to imagine that it is the end of 2023. So I know we're at the beginning, but this exercise is going to get you to visualize. Imagine you come to the end of this year. And I want you to consider that when you're visualizing that you're at the end of the year, right? So you're at December 31st, 2023, and it's been a great year, okay? Well, I'm gonna ask you to write down, and again, slow and deep. We're not gonna rush you. I want you to really do this with quality. Imagine you're at the end of the year and it's been an amazing year for you. It's been a greatly successful year. And I'm gonna ask you to write down, if I'm visualizing like this, and I'm at the end of the year, I'm so happy, I'm pumped, I'm glad, I'm thinking, wow, that was an amazing year. I'm gonna ask you to write down what made the year amazing, okay? So we're gonna pause there, and I'm gonna ask you to do this activity now. We're gonna give you, let's start with about 7 minutes, okay? And bear in mind the third question, because I asked you to think about key areas. You added to the list. So when I'm saying it's a great successful year, let's look at the key areas. Right? Let's say it was a great successful year in terms of your health. Why? What did you do? Right? What happened to your health in 2023 that made it such a great successful year? When you're visualizing, what do you see about your health? What do you feel about your health? Okay. If you added another area, maybe another area that you put down was character development. So it's a great successful year. 2023 was a great successful year because my character changed. What was it about the character that changed? Maybe you became a bit more confident. Maybe you were more patient. You know, maybe you spoke up more. What was it that made that character development such a great success in 2023? So just write this out. Okay, we'll give you 7 minutes. In any area, pull it down. You're visualizing that the year's been a success. And now I'm asking you to tune in. What are you seeing? What's happened that made it such a successful year? Okay, we'll give you about 7-8 minutes and then we'll reconvene. And please take your time and write this really, and this is for you. You don't have to share anything with anyone. So really go into your heart. You're imagining that you've had a great year. What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? What's going on in your visualization in the areas of maybe spirituality, relationships, health, work, career, anything else that you listed, pull it down, okay? You're successful. The year's been a great success. Now write out, what is it that made that year such a great success for you as an individual? As you write, feel free to be as honest as possible when you're making those notes, okay? You're writing down what is it that you saw in your visualization? What were those areas? Okay, but again, the idea is that you're visualizing that you come to the end of the year and you feel very happy about how this year has gone on. What are you seeing that made it such a great year? What were the goals that you achieved? What were the interactions that you had? Maybe there were things that you needed to address with certain people, right? What kind of conversations did you have? What did you focus on? Right? Why was 2023 such an amazing year for you? Write this down, right? Because this exercise is to really help us to tune into what we really feel. And remember what we said before, linking it to this idea of the inner relatedness. Where are we meant to be going? Okay, so it's not just aspirations and what makes it a great year, but also intuitively, where do you get that sense from your past, from 2022, from conversations, things that happened, things that didn't happen? Remember that context. Where am I meant to be going? What's your intuitive feeling that life is about where life is trying to help you to go, right? What's your intuitive feeling about what life is trying to help you to understand about yourself, about other people, about life itself? Taking that into consideration, write this out, okay? There's still got plenty of time. What is it that made 2023 such a wonderful year for you? Write this down. Relationships, health-wise, career-wise, spirituality-wise, any other areas that you know are significant to you. Feel free to write this down. And again, once you're done, feel free to let us know if you finish your writing. Again, no pressure. We have at least a couple of minutes. Even if you don't get this completely done today, that's absolutely fine. We're planting the seed. We just want you to roll with whatever's coming into your consciousness. Again, the visualization is I'm at the end of the year, right? So it's not January the 6th. Today is December 31st, 2023. And I'm looking at this year from that vantage point. And I'm feeling that it's been an incredible year. And I'm just mapping out, writing down why I felt it's been such an incredible year. Okay, and that's what we've asked you to do, within keeping in mind that context, that we know that there are no accidents, that there's a reason behind the experiences that we have, the people that we meet, that life is also trying to help us. So taking that into account, what is life trying to teach me? Where is life trying to take me as well? So once you're done, let us know. If not, we're going to give you another minute. And again, don't worry if you don't complete this. What I want us to do is start that process, and I want us to start to explore what we've come up with so far. And then, of course, you have more time to get into this in a bit more detail as we go through the sessions. So we'll give you about another 30 seconds if you want to just complete where you are at the moment. There's another little piece before we take this on to the discussion. Okay, so I'm going to share with you the next screen. Okay, there's two additional elements. So what you have on the screen now, if you just focus on points number 5 and 6, in a moment, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask Rikin to pull us into pairs. We're going to, actually, no, let's see the numbers here. So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Actually, I want to put, Rikin, if you could arrange it so that everyone is in one of 2 groups. I think a larger group discussion could be very powerful here. So you're going to begin an initial discussion on what stood out to you, right? So any ideas that you want to share. So again, some of the stuff that you write may be personal, that's fine. And you're going to share what stood out to you that you're comfortable in sharing. And the last point, and this is very important, I was in India recently. I was in India for the last week of December, and we had a group of about 50 students, and not just students, actually, no, 50 young adults, young professionals, because many of them were working. And we went to a place, a wonderful sacred place in India called Vrindavan. And so one of my mentors, he has a retreat center that he's just recently built there. And so we went for a retreat in India. And one of the things I was talking to the young professionals about was this point number 6, because we were looking at where they want to go in the future. But we also discussed that so often with our aspirations, we don't also take into account the inevitable challenges that can come when we want to achieve something significant, something important to us. So when you go into this conversation that you're about to go into, we're also going to ask you to think about not only what stood out to you from what you wrote, but when you think about it, how would you move in that direction? And where could some of the challenges be? Okay. And what are your initial thoughts? Okay, so I thought that at the end of this year, one of the things that I thought would be very wonderful is that I'm feeling very good because I've been able to improve my social media. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing as a success. Now, how would I move forward in this direction? Okay, maybe one of the things I can do is allocate 1 day a week to producing content. That will help me to achieve this particular goal. Now, what could be the challenges? You know, one of the challenges I could face is I don't have so many ideas about content. Okay, so that's where I could get challenged from. So maybe what I could do is spend more time looking at content, looking up what people are doing to get more ideas. Okay, so think about it in a very broad sense. What are some of the things that you aspired for, which were revealed to you by the visualization? How do you think you could move in that direction? And where would the challenges be? Because I'll be honest, I've seen amazing people who've got huge potential, but the weakness I've seen consistently amongst many of them is that they don't anticipate challenges. So you get this kind of idealistic vision. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And when the challenges come, it knocks their motivation because they're not expecting challenges. But we should expect challenges. We should think that challenges, especially when you're trying to do something significant, we should think that challenges are inevitable. But the wonderful thing is, again, mode of goodness, we should be able to preempt. In many cases, if we take just a minute, we can figure out this is where the challenge is going to come from. And we can put something in place so that when the challenges arise, we can navigate those challenges much more easily and we have a much greater sense of being a much greater probability of success as a result. Okay, so this is what we're doing with this exercise. Okay, you've done the visualization. Don't worry if it's not complete. That's not the key point here. The key point is I want you to get into that visualization process. We're not thinking about where I want to go. We're thinking about looking back because I've been successful. I've had a great year. I'm feeling that success. Now, what have I seen? Okay, so I'm going to go to Rikin. Groups of 2 or 3, however you want to arrange the configuration, but we want you to have some time to discuss. And I emphasize, we ask you to discuss on purpose. When you discuss what came from the exercise, you're deepening the neural pathways in the brain that greatly amplify the likelihood that you are going to act on those ideas and that vision that you've written down. Okay, so the process of discussion is not just a nice to have. It actually has a direct impact upon your determination, your ability to keep the goal in mind, and your ability to remember both the challenges and the strategies to go around the challenges. This is why I say it again, this group is very special. I'm enthusiastic, I feel pumped when I come and see you guys, right? And the reason is it's rare to find a group of people, especially high achievers, who can support each other. Because in the individualistic culture that we live in, when people are high achievers, usually it just creates a competitive mood and envy, to be very honest with you. Usually it's like, let me not tell you what I'm up to because you may get the idea before I do, right? Let me not be open and vulnerable. And you get, and therefore you have a society of people who are very alone and who are not realizing their full potential because they don't have anyone that they trust, right? And again, linking back to what we read before, where we create a different type of culture, then we create win-win because your success is also my success. I have a friend of mine who lives in Washington, DC. He works for Deloitte. He shared something with me. It was 2 years ago when the pandemic was on. He said, Deloitte, when you leave the company, they will help you to get a job, even with another organization that's different to them. Some of your benefits by working at Deloitte, they'll keep those benefits with you for a few months, even after you leave them. Why? Because they're a consulting company. They know if they take good care of you, you're going to go to another organization. You may get positions of authority in the other organization. You remember what a great experience you had with Deloitte. You may come back to Deloitte later on with your bigger network, greater competence, greater experience. Even if you leave Deloitte, you'll tell everyone, when I was at Deloitte, they treated me so well. Therefore, you'll become an advocate and an advertiser for Deloitte's brand, and to the point that Avantika made. Even if you left the company, but you had such a great experience and you're telling everyone, I used to work at Deloitte, I'm not working for them now, but it was brilliant. They gave me this, they gave me that, like looked after me in this way. Then all the people that you tell, they think, you know what, that's interesting. They're such a good company. Maybe in the future, I want to work for Deloitte. The other thing is, because Deloitte is a consulting company, even when you leave, now you're the head of a new organization and you need some consulting work done. You're much more likely to say, let's call my old company Deloitte and let's get them on board to do the consulting for us in our new organization. So again, the mode of goodness, thinking for success and planning and preparing for success, not just for a short-term thing, but over a long span, okay? I really mean that. And I'll tell you this also, on that basis, if there's anything I can do to help you guys individually, on this idea that it's a win-win. If I can help you, I know I'm helping myself. Again, we're more than happy to do so. But let's not take time from this activity right now. So why don't we do this? Rikin, first of all, what are the group sizes? Because that will determine how much time we give. What have you organized right now? You're muted, Rikin, so I can't hear you.
We have 3 people and 2 people in one room.
Okay, no problem. So why don't we start with 12 minutes, okay? Okay, let's start 12 minutes. It's your agenda, your discussion, what you want to share, what stood out to you on the visualization, what that means in terms of some activities to move in that direction, where the potential challenges are, and what you're thinking initially as to how you can create some contingencies, some strategies to maneuver through or around those challenges. Are there any questions on the activity before we start the breakout room? Excellent. We'll bring you back in about 12 minutes from now. Ricken, if you could send them through.
Oh, okay. One second. Actually, Gabrielle has just joined, so we'll just add her in.
Okay.
Um,
I can't hear you, Ricken, because you're muted if you're speaking.
I was just saying something to Palak.
Oh, okay, no problem.
I think Christina and Gabrielle have to join their room.
Okay. Yeah, if you could both, Gabrielle and Christine, if you could just accept the invite to join your rooms, please.
No problem, Gabrielle. There we go. Gabrielle, did you want to join room 3?
Gabrielle, are you able to hear?
Yes, please. I was yes, please. But you have to send me again
Oh,
the
let me
invitation.
see.
Because,
It
no,
says you haven't joined room 3.
Yes, I have rejected because I didn't know I could.
Oh,
So-
perfect. 1 second. Let me just see.
And I'm sorry, I'm not able to be on visual, but
That's
and
okay.
I'm sorry for being late. But then I thought, oh, I really wish to.
Yeah, no, it's good.
It's great to
Thank
see you. Don't worry. We're just glad for your presence on the call. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much for being patient with me when I'm a bit disorganized.
And Happy New Year.
Oh yes, you also. Happy New Year to
Okay, try
you.
that, Gabrielle, and then I'm gonna just move you again. Okay,
Yes, yes.
try that.
What can I do?
You should have an invitation to join room 3.
No, I did not.
I'm
Hmm.
not sure why. It says not joined.
Yeah, because it came once and then I thought I cannot because I don't know anything. So I rejected, but now how can I get in again?
Okay, I don't know why it's not
Because
it's
I
saying-
If it's difficult, another thing you could do is if you make me co-host, I may be able to get Gabrielle into that room.
okay,
yes.
let's see.
Yes, if you make me host, then it'll give me the I'll have
Okay.
access to the. Okay, now let me see if I can do it. So Gabrielle, okay, so move to. We're gonna move. Okay, so I get it. Okay, so okay. What we'll do is Gabrielle. I'm gonna move Gabrielle. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move you to room 2, and then I'm gonna move you again to a different room. Okay, so is that okay, Gabrielle?
Okay, you just move me wherever you feel I belong to, and then they will explain me what I have to do. This is exactly how my real life is.
Okay, no, it's but Gabrielle. It's important that you know what I'm going to do because the room I'm going to move you to is not where you're going to stay. So you'll be moved to room 2, but then keep an eye on the Zoom because you'll see another option come up to you to move again because
Okay.
we need to move you into room 3, but we can't do it directly. Okay.
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 Moderator hat sie verschoben nach Raum 2.
Okay, Gabrielle, can you see the option to join room 2? Can you see that?
It didn't give me an option. It just told me you put me in room 2, but I'm still seeing you.
Okay, I'm going to move you now to room 3. Then let's see if that works now.
it told me you moved me to room 3, but I'm still seeing you, Ed. But it's a nice vision to see you.
Maybe, Gabrielle, maybe what you can do is just hop off the call and hop
Yes.
back on.
Yes.
Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, I'm hopping. Wait, okay, I'm going and then I'm coming again.
Sure.
Okay. And then one exercise and discussing. Feel free to unmute and speak if you wish to. There's no problem.
We were looking for more than a thumbs up.
It was fantastic. I actually got to chat with Pala and catch up on a variety of things. It was really, really nice. And it's funny. I think there are so many universal truths. I think we found some very common goals and got to share in very meaningful ways. So that was quite nice. Thank you, Pala.
Thank you, Paul. And thank you, Paul, for sharing. Anyone else want to share? How did you find it? Was there anything that stood out to you? Anything that particularly came to your awareness about some things that you would like to really be focusing on in this year of 2023 to reach that fulfillment at the end of the year? I saw Avantika's unmuted, and I can see Gabrielle as well. Avantika.
It was lovely. First of all, I was in a group with Mohit and Rasa, and they are clearly very evolved. So they've been working on their own transformation, as have I. So I think the discussion very mature and very, the focus was clearly more on refinement and execution. But it was also open-ended enough to make room for, showing for seeing what the dance with life is going to be. So there were a lot of borrowed benefits I got from listening to both of them. Each one of them brought something very interesting. So I really enjoyed that. And I'm going to take away a better understanding, because this year has been so difficult, not difficult, so fast to start off with. I'm really glad that I did this exercise today, because it puts things in perspective. And the one thing, we kind of had this, each one of us had, this wish list and things like that. But I just realized one thing, Ed said something, what is life trying to show me, and what is life trying to teach me? That's very important. And at the end of this, I wanted to gauge my success by how I'm feeling at the end of the year. So, I'd like to be feeling like I'm at peace and joy and all those emotions. And I realized that even though the last 3 years haven't gone the way I planned them, I was feeling that way at the end of each year, which just means that, when you're in alignment with what life wants to teach you and show you, even if, some of the, there's something in Hindi that we say that, to translate, if what you want happens, excellent. If what you don't want doesn't happen, even better, because then what life wants to happen is happening. So I just thought, that was something I want to be taking away. But we all had great points, so that was lovely.
And but this is a really important point. Look, let's be very honest with you. As we're reading from this leadership book by B.T. Swami, it's not just mundane leadership. We want to take it from a higher perspective. And that means it's not just about getting what we want. We want to have space in our life for what's actually best for us, what's going to help the evolution of our consciousness. It's more important. There are many people in the world who get exactly what they want and they're miserable. So it's not that simple. And that's why I really appreciated, Avantika, your point. I know Ricken had to leave for work, so that's why we have one less person. I loved, Gabrielle, I think you had unmuted. Was there something you wanted to share, please?
Yes, sorry for not being visible, but but just this time. Yes, I want to mention that always, again and again, I can sense that everything I'm sharing in this group, that when another person is open to share their feelings and their situations, I know exactly it's a message exactly meant for my life. And I learned that also when I joined family constellation work, that I think it's very, very interesting that we always get in conversation with people. They help us to learn about our own situation when we are willed and open to listen, and after the conversation to go in contemplation. It's the universe is really serving us all the time. And yeah, I had the feeling I want to say this, this really deep message that the universe is always in conversation with us through other people. It's always, and it's a great gift when we allow to see it as this gift. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle, for that very pertinent reminder. But yes, life is benevolent, and there's an evolution that we're all on in terms of consciousness, but we want to be aligned, as Avantika said, be in alignment with that higher understanding as well. Anyone else, would anyone else like to share anything else that you wrote down, that you discussed, that you thought about, even strategies around challenges, anything else that you were discussing that you would like to share with the group?
I wanted to share really briefly. I really appreciated being in the group with Avantika and hearing her thoughts, which, you know, she's just a beautiful person and she's so thoughtful and introspective and, you know, transparent. And it was, you know, wonderful sharing with her. One of the things she had said was really touched me because it sort of was kind of finishing my thoughts on, you know, my spirituality goals for the year. And she said something about removing separation between spiritual and business self, which, and having more integration there, which, you know, it really spoke to me. You know, really want to thank you for that, Avantika. But that was something that really stood out. And, you know, again, an idea that I want to, you know, integrate more. So I just wanted to mention that. And, you know, this idea that at the end of the year, it's not about, you know, have you achieved these goals or not, in terms of your self-satisfaction, is have you worked that process? Did you commit to those goals 100% and give it your best shot? I think at the end of the year, my fulfillment, my inner joy, my success factor will be that I put in the work, that I stay committed, that I, you know, as Avantika was saying, this dance, you know, dance with life, that I, you know, embrace that and, you know, meet it and, you know, and like you said, spiritually evolve from it. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you very much. And that's very important. And I really want to emphasize this. That sense of fulfillment at the end of the year is not just about how many things people have ticked off. When we are aligned with where we're meant to be, what we're meant to be doing, how we're meant to be growing, that's what actually gives a sense of fulfillment. So it is a guarantee there'll be people in this world who will get a lot more done on any particular year and be a lot less happy, a lot less fulfilled. So we really want to understand about this, again, alignment. What should I be doing? Where am I meant to be going? How am I meant to be growing? And if we can ask ourselves these questions, our fulfillment will be incredible. I see every single one of you like a candle. If your light is burning brightly, then you can also light the other candles, the other 8 billion candles on the planet. The danger is when our lights are dimmed or when we're exhausted. So it's not even a question of getting stuff done. It's like, what should we be doing? Yeah. Most of the world is focused on what they want to do. But this kind of leadership that B.T. Swami is speaking about is really looking more on how should we be evolving? How should we be growing? Where should we be moving and evolving? And if we do that in the right way, your fulfillment will naturally spill over into all the relationships that you have. When I was in India, one of the speakers, a very wonderful speaker at the retreat, he made a very wonderful point to all of us. He talked about envy. And he said that envy comes from dissatisfaction. When we're dissatisfied in our own lives, then we're much more likely to feel annoyed, irritated, and envious in terms of how we perceive other people. And I thought it was such a brilliant realization. And that's why this exercise is so important. What we're looking at is what does it take to really light up our spirit this year, right? And if we do that, again, root cause, if we can make sure that our consciousness and our fulfillment is healthy, it automatically takes care of issues such as envy, jealousy, burnout, all of these other things. The root issue is our consciousness. So thank you very much for sharing that. And Rasa, I wanted to ask you one more thing before we close. I know people may have to go soon, because you mentioned integration, which is a really important point, integration, spirituality and business. Why is it so important? What's the significance of being more integrated in the way that we do things and the way that we live, please, Rasa?
I can only answer for myself. I think that the importance to me is that when those two are integrated, then you can really operate from a mode of goodness, to your point, and be your authentic self, thereby contribute more positively from it, as a natural, relationship with everyone in terms of, you don't have to try, and nothing is going to be fake or strained, or you don't have to work hard at it because it's coming from your true self. So for me, spirituality is integrated in every aspect of my life, or I try to at least. So when I can integrate it at a deeper level, and especially in business, because as we are all talking about, business, as we know, is mostly relationships. And so, relationships take, authenticity, trust, and all these other investments that we were just talking about to deepen. And to me, that comes fundamentally from my spiritual foundation of, love, compassion, appreciation that flows out to others.
Creating win-win situations.
Sorry, what's the last thing you said, Mohit?
No, I was just saying is thereby creating win-win situations, right? So, in spirituality, you want welfare for yourself, but also more importantly for others. And so what that helps us create is a win-win situation instead of I win, you lose type of scenario. And sometimes in organizations.
I forgot to mention the last point on spirituality that is so integral for me in business is, when you come from a spiritual place, then the natural tendency is to want to share and give more. It comes from a place of, being selfless. And so I think, that's a really important piece, because when that flows into business and relationships and all of that, there's so much positivity that comes out. So
thank you very much.
Yeah.
So we're going to end. So is someone else going to say something?
No, I just wanted to add, for me, I'm a better version of myself when that integration's there. And when the integration is not, because it's not static, it's very dynamic. I go in and out throughout the year, right? And so what I find myself is I don't like the person that I am, professing, and how I go about doing things when I'm stressed or I'm not really integrating my spirituality. When I am, the feeling that I get is that I'm, this is who I truly am, and I'm a nicer person, quite honestly. Thank you.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
So Mohit, I know that you wanted to take some time to share something about how you've been applying and integrating. Would you like to do that now?
Yeah, maybe I know we're going overtime, but I just wanted to. So team, those exercises we did with team effectiveness, you guys, probably like 4 weeks ago or something like that, even longer. So the first one was like the 5 dimensions of trust.
Yes.
And then also the key traits of a effective team. And so Rasa, actually, I brought Rasa in, and she did this beautiful presentation with my entire sales team.
I was your proxy.
Yeah. And Ed, you would have been so proud. And next week we'll just share her PowerPoint presentation. We'll give it to Ricken, and you can just go through it. It's about 8 slides. And what I really wanted to tell you is how all these different concepts resonated with people, and how meaningful it was, and how they want to have follow-up on it. And the funny thing is we started to integrate these things right away. And we've got, you know, I don't want to, for lack of time, there's some really key takeaways that we're going to build on from what Rasa did. And it was about an hour and a half, 2-hour exercise. And it was amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, they were, his team was, because it was done as part of his sales meeting, his annual sales meeting. And a lot of the feedback was, you know, that was one of the preferred portions of, you know, the sales meeting, was doing that teamwork, that inner work. So it really resonated. And we'll share that with you privately, Ed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. We're very glad to be of service to all of you. I'm very glad that it was valuable and useful. I know we're over time, so we're going to end soon, but I'll just end with this. We were discussing with the young professionals in India, and I'm going to share this with you. This is a theme that you may want to take away for this year, and that is to give from a place of abundance. Okay, we talked about spirituality, integration. We want to encourage you this year to make sure that you keep your cup full, so that what you give, the love you give, the care you give, the compassion you give is not a strain. Because your cup is full, you're giving from a place of abundance. You have it within you, therefore you're giving it very, very naturally, very organically, rather than, which can happen to any of us, where my cup's empty, I'm trying to give to you and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? Even I don't have enough myself. And then it becomes a different thing. Because in the world right now, many people start off with good intention, but because we don't give from a place of abundance, we start to feel drained. Then we feel resentful. And then we may even feel, I'm giving to so many people, no one's looking after me. And then that can kill that spirit of giving, okay? So we want it to be organic, we want it to be sustainable and to be lasting. So the idea is to give from a place of abundance, to keep your cup full so you can give the spillover continually to the world, okay? Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be with all of you and to share with all of you. We wish you a tremendous 2023. Great to see you, Mohit, Rasa, Christina, Avantika, Gabrielle, Paul, Palak, great to see you as well. Thank you for your message as well, Palak. I was touched, and hope to be in your association again sometime soon. Okay, take care. Have a great weekend as well. Okay.